Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a cute pair of earrings using the African art cane that we made a few days back. So, this is our cane, and you can see what it looks like. So this is what we're going to be using. Now you can use any shape for your earrings as you want, but I'm going to be using these flip-flop cutters. And these are the extra large earring sets, and I'll provide a link to that in the description below. Also, you're going to need a small circle cutter. This is my largest mini cutter circle. That's what you're also going to need. So I'm going to put these to the side and we can work with those in a little while. For now, I've got a piece of black over here that I've run through on my thickest setting, and this is what we're going to be using our mini circle cutter for. So you're going to want a piece of plain printing paper, and we'll put a backing on later because it can get a little messy if you put it on now. Now just use that paper to gently burnish the top of your black, and this was run out on my thickest setting, which is 2mm thick and is Primo Black. There we go. Now what I want you to do is I want you to make a mark with your cutter, like so, and you're going to need two. And then I want you to take a ball tool and press in the middle, and then just place them around the edge. Then I'm going to take a smaller ball tool like so, and create the sort of pattern that you would like. Now I want it to kind of look random, so now I'm going to see if I can find an even smaller ball tool. Here we go. Just going to ring the outside, and you'll see why we are doing this later. Once we've baked this, we're going to fill in these indents with white. Okay, then I'm just going to position this. Okay. Press down, give it a spin. Move it up again. Okay, and it might take you a few tries to get something that you like, but you want something roughly like that, and you want to make two of them. Okay, and this is the design that I settled on after fussing with it a little bit. So I put thin dots around the edge, then swapped over to another one with a large ball tool on the end, and I pressed here, 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 and here. Then I used this to go in between, and I repeat it on this one. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can get it as close as you can, but it does not have to be perfect. Now you'll put this into the oven for at least half an hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and then when we're done, we're going to infill it with some white polymer clay so that we can expose that pattern. So in the meantime, we are now going to start working with our cane. And what I want you to do is I want you to just press this together, and then bring over your cutters, and we should be able to get a nice slice out of that. Nice piece. Now I'm just going to use a flexible blade, and I'm going to take some slices. And this cane has been resting for a day or two, which means that it's easier to work with. It's not soft and sticky. Just separate those, and then we're going to use our black from before. We're just going to quickly smush that up and then run that through our thickest setting so that we have a base to put our slices on. Okay, and then just try to get to a rectangle shape. Then I go roll it down till it's about 1mm thick, which will be my third setting. There we go. I'm not too worried about this one's appearance, it doesn't really matter that much. Now I'm going to take these and I'm going to lay them down. You want to take the next one and you want to line it up. Like so. Just try to make sure there's no black showing through. Okay. And this last one's a little bit thick on this end, so what you can do is, if your cane slice is just a touch too thick, you can take it, press it down onto your tile, either ceramic or glass, take a thin blade, and like you would a mica shift, just gently shave. And that will start to even it out. Like so. There we go. Now you can see it's not so wide anymore, and so it will fit better. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want you to just gently take that and just move it around, because you don't want this obvious straight line here. You want it to kind of match up with the others, so just use your fingers to move that around a bit so it hides the seam. Then use a piece of printing paper, and you can use these quite a few times, especially if you're not using any surface effects such as acrylic inks, and you can just burnish this down, because you want these slices to meld together so that there is no seam. Even if you sand it, you don't want to be able to see that seam, so you want to just burnish that together and make sure that it's nice and even. After I've burnished it a bit, I'll use a roller just to even it out and make sure that they are the same thickness across. I'm not trying to stretch the pattern, I'm just making sure that it is the same thickness across. And then I might burnish a little bit, and then we'll be ready to go. There we are. Now, using your blade, I want you to just trim away any areas that don't look like they are feasible to use. Like this area cracked a little bit, it's fine. And this area down here also cracked a little bit. And that area stretched, which is fine, not a problem at all. Right. Now, before we cut this out, I would recommend, just looking for my thick blade, here we are, just lifting this up off the tile, because it's really been pushed down onto that tile quite hard, and you might find that it's hard to lift it up again without distorting your piece. So lift it up, then using your paper, just very gently burnish it back down so it does stick, but not so much so that when you lift up your with your cutters it's going to cause issues. Now you can cut them straight like so, but I tend to like cutting at an angle, and that is just my personal preference. Now try to go at the same angle for both. Just try to find my spot. I think that works quite well. There we go. Then lift up your excess. You can see that cut quite cleanly. Okay. Then using your thick blade, and I would recommend just wiping it to make it just slightly damp before doing this. It tends to make it easier. Shimmy it up. Now just putting that to the side, we can tend to that in a second. We'll do the same with the other. Alright, now for both, you want to just take your finger and gently tap along the sides, just to smooth out any little frilly bits along the side, like so. Don't press too hard, we're just smoothing it out. And now the back can see here it's not quite as neat as I would like it. We are going to tend to that after it is baked because it's just a lot easier to do then. Okay, and you'll do the same with the other one. Take it and gently press along these sides to smooth out any straggly bits. So, and there we go. And these will go with our other black ones into the oven. So we'll all put them onto that piece of printing paper. So you can just gently smooth it again because you might have a few fingerprints on it. Okay. And then we're going to put that in the oven for half an hour at least. I tend to go about 40 minutes. Yeah, pretty much recommend temperature. And then when we are done, we will fill in the little spaces that we have on these and put the backs on. Okay, and so these are out of the oven. And now we are ready to tend to our backs and tend to filling these in. So we'll do these ones first. And now we're going to just take a bit of white polymer clay. And I'm using creamer. And now you want to take that and you want to roll it in your hands till it is super soft. Because that will just make the process a lot easier. With a small amount of clay it should not take too long to do that. Then take that and press it across the surface of your piece. Like so. And then start smearing it off. And now you might need to do this once or twice to get into all those holes. Oops. Okay. And then once I've got the most of it off, I like to just gently press on the surface to get it all stuck in there. And then I like to take a rag that I'm not really using for anything. Let me just get this out of the way. And it can be a dirty rag, it doesn't really matter. Just take that and rub the clay surface along it quite vigorously. And you'll see how nicely that cleans it up. There we are. Now that we've got the majority of it off, I like to take a wet wipe and some isopropyl alcohol. And the higher the strength of the alcohol, the better. I'm using 99%, but you can use lower than that if you want. And this will just really clean it up. Just rub it along the surface, and you can see how nicely that cleans it up. It also gets rid of any dirt. Okay, and then just check the sides, make sure you're happy with that. I like to also just gently clean the back for later. And repeat with that one. There we go. Very easy, very simple. So, next step is to just clean your hands because you will have gotten some white on them. And then also, you should have a piece of black polymer clay rolled out to about 1 millimeter thick, ready to go. So I'll just pop this to the side, out of the way, and we're going to take this and we're just going to texture the back. I'm just going to use this sponge. It's my favourite. I like it because it's a nice flexible texture. You can use aquarium sponges, you can use dish washing sponges, the green sort. Any sponge will work for this, and it's a great repeatable background texture. Okay, there we go. Then grab whatever you want to put the backing on. And then also, if whatever the colour your backing is, in this case it's black, grab some liquid clay of that colour and apply a small amount to the back of your piece. And just smear that around. This will help it stick. Okay. Just just wipe that up because I don't want to get that on my piece by accident. And then using your finger, just gently wipe away excess because you want very little liquid clay on here. If you have too much, your piece will slip and slide around while you're trying to get the backing on, and that's very irritating. Okay, then grab this, pop it on the back, and don't worry about ruining the texture a little bit. This is why I like a repeatable texture, because we can just we can retexture it later with no consequence. And I'm just going to use a craft knife to just roughly trim it out. It does not need to be perfect. And then I like to just gently go around these edges and smush it on so that I get a beveled back rather than a straight sharp cut back. And then I'll pinch and pull away those edges, and this will leave me with a nice clean join, and the liquid clay will take care of the rest. Okay, then scoop those up because you don't want those in the way. Smooth along the edge just to make sure that you don't have any bits hanging out, and then grab your texture again. And this is why being repeatable is nice, because then you can just go and texture your edges. Sandpaper is another great texture you can use. It's repeatable and just makes for a nice background texture. There we go. And then I'll just gently smooth along the sides again just to make sure that it's sitting properly. Okay, and you can twist it around and you should not see any shiny spots. Right, and you'll repeat that with the other three components. Okay, and then lastly, I want to just take care of these edges because they don't look as nice as I would like them. So take your liquid clay, pop a little bit down onto your tile, and now you want to handle this carefully because I don't want to dull the back. I'm just gently going to brush this sculpey black liquid clay along the sides, and this is going to neaten them up. It's going to fill in any cracks that might be there, and it's also just going to make it a nice solid colour. This is optional, you do not have to do it, but it does create a much better finish in my opinion. And in the past I have tended to use clay to do this, but a lot of you have trouble, so if you're having trouble and you don't want to use clay, this liquid clay technique is much quicker and tends to be easier. However, not any brand of liquid clay is going to work very well for this. I tend to use the Sculpey black liquid clay, first off because it's matte. I like a matte finish rather than shiny finish, and also it is a fairly thick clay, so it's not going to run. Something like Kato liquid clay, which is what I tended to use in the past, it runs quite a bit, and so you have to do this quickly, and you have to be careful not to put too much on because otherwise you're going to end up having it run and it's just not going to look very good. Okay, so then just use your finger to gently wipe along these edges. You can even use a wet wipe. Let me just bring that over. So just gently clean it off, and we are going to be doing sanding, so it's not a huge issue if you have a little bit on the surface, but it's just better to clean it up in general. Okay, then check along the edges, make sure there's no spots you missed. Like here, here's a little spot that needs to be touched up, and here. Okay, and then check the back, make sure you haven't dulled it. If you have dulled it just a touch, then you can just take your sponge and gently press on the back again. Okay. Then you'll pop that into the oven for another half an hour at pretty much recommended temperature, and that is actually going to be our last bake. And then when it is done, we can start sanding and carrying on assembling our piece. Alright, and here they all are, out of the oven and all ready to use. So here are the sides, all nice and neat, and the back. And this one I didn't need to coat the sides in liquid clay because we were working with black as it was, and so the sides are all one colour as it is, so we don't need to worry about coating the sides. So now we want to move on to sanding. So I'm just going to pop this to the side, and I'm going to be using polishing papers, and I'm going to start with my 400 grit. And I'll just start by sanding these ones. And now I don't need a thorough sand, we just want to be getting rid of any imperfections, and I would go up to maybe about 1000 to 2000 grit. All we want to do is you just want to use that to remove any imperfections. So with this one, for instance, you want to just make sure that you don't have any white sitting on what should be black. So it looks okay. Then I'll move up to my grey. And we're going to be putting a matte seal on these because I want them to have a matte finish, because we're going with that kind of tribal pattern, and I feel like matte would work the best. You can put resin on if you want as well. So that's why I'm saying not to go up too high. So that's about fine, and you can see that we have a light sheen to that. So I'll repeat with the other ones, you don't need to worry about the sides. Just want to be cleaning up any imperfections, and then when they're done we can seal. Okay, and I'm going to be using Liquitex matte varnish, as this one works pretty well. And this is just going to give it a smooth matte finish. If you do not have matte varnish, this is not completely necessary due to there not actually being any surface effect. I just like putting the matte varnish on because it gives me a nice consistent effect, where sometimes with the sandpaper it can miss some areas, so it's not absolutely necessary. And you'll just paint on one layer, that should be all you need to do, and it will take about half an hour to dry. And then when we are done, we will drill them and start assembling our earrings. And just make sure that you don't have any air bubbles on this. And make sure that your coat is not too thick, like this one has a little bit of a too thick a coat. So I'll just scrape it off a bit and add it to the next one. And now it might look shiny right now, but it will dry matte. So don't worry about that. Okay, now that they're dry, just going to take them and then using a drill, going to drill a hole at the top. Like so. Very easy. Okay, and you'll repeat with the other ones, and then these ones you want to just make sure that you line them up nicely so that they look nice. So let's find the best spot. Okay, and then I'm just going to drill through. Okay, then once they are drilled, we're going to link them together, and I'm going to be using gunmetal findings today. These are all pre-opened already. Yeah. And you can use any metal finding you want, but I thought gunmetal would match quite nicely with these. You'll just link them together like so. Very easy. And then just slip that join back into the hole, like so, so that it is not visible. Then I'm just going to grab the ear wire, that through, link it back in, Then I've got some smaller jump rings. Open it up. And close. And there is our finished earring. And I'll repeat with this one. Okay. And here they are, all nicely finished. So let me just show you that. There we go. So from a cane like this to a pair of earrings like this. So you can see the colours do darken just slightly upon baking, and the matte varnish will just tone them down just a little bit as well, so just keep that in mind as well. And also that's basically it. This is the end of the tutorial. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and keep in mind when we made this cane I did it in the beautiful reds, oranges and yellows, but you could do it in greens, you could do it in blues, you could do purples, any colour you want. So play around with the colours you want, and you can create the exact same design with the black and white, because black and white goes with everything. Just change the colour of the base cane and you're set to go with a bunch of different designs. So anyway, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you would like to support this channel, please do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon community. I will have a link to that in the description below the video. You'll have access to tutorials that are exclusive to Patreon and my Etsy store. You will get up to a 20% discount to my Etsy store, where I sell cutters, tutorials, texture stamps and a bunch of tools and supplies. And it also just helps support this channel so that I can continue posting more than one video a week. So please do consider becoming a patron. And as always, I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.